In this video, I've got some tips for the last 4 edges of your 5x5 solve. So after pairing up my first 8 edges and storing them in the top and bottom layers, I need to realign my centers. And if I have a case like this, which is, I guess, a tricky realignment in that this side needs to be turned 90 degrees and this one needs to be done 180 degrees, then basically my tendency is just to realign them as quickly as possible and then look ahead for my last 4 edges. However, sometimes there will be the possibility to take advantage of nice cases. So let's say here we have the bottom line already matched up with the center and we have this block on the bottom as well. Then it's up to, it would give us an advantage to actually find this last blue and white edge and make sure that when we realign these top centerpieces, that this blue and white trudge gets completely solved. So what we can do is locate it here. And before realigning our centers, what we're going to do is do a U prime like that. Flip this one in its place, and then do another wide U prime, and that stores this solved edge at the back, and we only have 3 edges left to complete. So things like that are useful in easy cases when realigning your centerpieces after solving the first 8 edges. It's also very important to keep track of what you're doing and the location of any unsolved edge pairs. So let's say we've solved this one, and now it's up to us to solve, we've got this block here and this piece down here, which is a pretty easy case. However, we need to figure out, I guess, the most efficient or the quickest way to solve this pair. What I would do is take out this back left edge, slice, replace, and then slice back. And now I know that the 2 remaining unsolved edges will end up in the front face when I do that. Ideally, you also want to keep all your unsolved edge pairs in one slice. So you might be working on it in the M slice like this, or in the E slice like this. It's okay to bring an unsolved one out to the top if you're going to replace it afterwards, but I would try to avoid having, 2 edge pairs here and 1 over here as your last 3 edges. Make sure they're easiest to work with when they're all in one slice. So I mentioned in the intermediate video that if you have no edge pairs around the cube at all, you can do something like mu to m prime or wide r prime l u to r l prime, like that, and that will pair up an edge, and that remains true for advanced solvers. If you have nothing after pairing up your first 8 edges, if you have nothing paired up or even incorrectly paired, then you can do that. But it's also very useful to use that for this other case. So this is where we have 2 correct wings, and then we have the midge opposite it. So let's say we have these 2 and this one here. What we can do is actually bring these ones down with r prime l, do a u2, and then do rl prime. And when we do that, we need to make sure that these 2 are unsolved edges because it will break these up if they're solved. And yeah, this is a very easy way to solve this sort of combination where we have the 2 wings and a midge, and make sure that they're the same color on top. If the color on top is different, we can do something like this. So bring it down. Instead of doing a U2 all the way, we can do U, R prime U, and then insert this one like that, and then bring them back up. If you're quite advanced at 5x5 speed solving, let's say around 1 minute 10 or a bit below that, it's probably worth learning more last 2 edge algorithms. If you're slower than that, it won't take off too much from your time. So it's probably better to focus on things like look ahead and efficiency. But if you're quite fast, then learning all the last 2 edge algorithms can, knock a second or 2 off of your times, because it avoids bad cases, I suppose. It just means that every single case is just one algorithm. And in the next video, I'll have all of the last 2 edge algorithms that I use in my solves. And there's also a PDF in the algorithm section on CubeSkills. If after solving your first 8 edges, you have a few different options. So let's say here you have this block, but you also have these 2 wings. The piece that belongs with these 2 is back here. So you could do something like slice, flip, and slice. But my preference would be always to favor the 2 wings and the midge, because it's a much shorter algorithm as opposed to slicing, flipping, and then slicing. You can just rotate and do something like that. Perhaps for the next one, it might be worth, now that these 2 are set up directly opposite one another and it just requires 1 slice move, then you could just do like B prime to move that to the back, slice, replace, and slice back. Another thing to keep in mind during last 4 edges is cycling, and there will be a lot of opportunities to do this. Basically what this means is, like when we do our first 8 edges, we always want to take out this edge in a productive manner. So let's say we're doing these 2, and we're pairing it up with this one, we take out the edge from the back left, slice, and then looking here, we actually have this red and yellow midge here. So it would make more sense to actually insert this edge with F, R prime, F prime, R, rather than R, U prime, R prime. Because F, R prime, F prime, R makes sure that this edge gets paired up with this one. So it brings this one over to here. So that's a little bit more efficient than just inserting this one like this. And then we have quite a bad case. In fact, here we have all three edges separate from one another, all three edge pieces of each edge. So we'd have to do like an MU to M prime and then go from there.